and the rage of people in this country.
And by the way, you might have seen this, there was some reporting that there was some kind of beef between these two high-profile inmates, something that two of the biggest cases that we've been covering.
In a Manhattan hotel last week.
Meanwhile, Diddy has a surprise connection to accused United Healthcare CEO killer Luigi Mangione.
The entertainment world has been rocked by unexpected developments linking Luigi Mangione, an enigmatic figure in the business world, to the ongoing legal drama surrounding Sean Diddy Combs. As Diddy faces mounting allegations, Mangione's name has surfaced, leaving many to question the nature of their connection and its broader implications. In a shocking twist, two of the most high-profile criminal cases currently dominating headlines have become unexpectedly intertwined. Luigi Mangione, the man accused of assassinating United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in broad daylight in Midtown Manhattan, shares a surprising legal connection with music mogul Sean Diddy Combs, who faces serious federal charges of trafficking and racketeering. While their crimes are vastly different, their legal defenses are now overlapping in a way no one could have predicted.
Luigi Mangione spent his first full day in a federal facility known as Hell on Earth. The 26-year-old accused assassin is being held in isolation here at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, known for appalling conditions and rampant inmate violence. Look, chilling surveillance video shows an inmate stabbed 44 times last April. Miraculously, he survived.
Let's turn to Diddy, who spent his 94th day behind bars with a trip to court where he was greeted inside by sons Christian and Justin.
Another day, another dawn. Come on.
How are you feeling today?
Our ET producer was inside and says Diddy appeared freshly shaven with recently dyed hair. Diddy mouthed, "You good?" to his sons, who gave a thumbs up. As for his first Christmas incarcerated, well, it's not going to look like this.
Combs family Christmas. Yeah, I like gifts too now. I'm so merry.
Diddy will be given a Christmas lunch of Cornish hen, macaroni and cheese, and a dessert. Holiday activities will include a 3-on-3 basketball tournament.
Merry Christmas. Let's get it.
Mangione, 26, is being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn, a notoriously harsh federal facility infamous for violence and poor conditions. Coincidentally, this is the same prison where Combs is currently detained as he awaits his May 2025 trial. Reports confirm that Mangione and Combs are housed in the same special housing unit, although they remain isolated from the general prison population due to the high-profile nature of their cases.
After processing, Mangione will be moved to a special housing unit on the 18th floor, where he will share common space with a famous prisoner, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs, who is awaiting trial for trafficking charges, which he denies. Breakfast this morning consisted of cereal and skim milk. Lunch was a fish sandwich, baked potato, and green beans. Dinner is Italian, lasagna with meat sauce or pasta fagioli.
During the holidays, it's terribly lonely. He will be able to get a holiday visit, assuming visitors are approved. I don't think that will happen at this time.
Sam Mangle is a prison consultant familiar with the facility.
If you were counseling Mangione, what would you tell him to survive?
Try to keep as low profile as possible. Obviously, where he is now, he will be fine. If he is sentenced to time, he will be extorted because of his family. He absolutely will be taken advantage of, whether it's physically, financially, emotionally.
Today, questions are being raised about the massive display of force used when Mangione was brought to New York City. Even Mayor Eric Adams was there to look him in the eye.
I want to send a very clear and loud message that this act of terrorism would not be tolerated in the city.
But the most shocking connection lies within their legal teams. Luigi Mangione recently retained Karen Friedman Agnifilo as his defense attorney. Karen is married to Mark Agnifilo, who just so happens to be representing Diddy in his federal trafficking case. Mark Agnifilo, a high-profile criminal defense lawyer, is expected to assist Karen in defending Mangione, creating a surprising overlap between these two infamous cases. This power couple is now navigating two of the most high-profile and complex criminal defenses in the country.
Meanwhile, Diddy has a surprise connection to accused United Healthcare CEO killer Luigi Mangione. Luigi just hired defense attorney Karen Friedman Agnifilo, who is married to Diddy's lawyer Mark Agnifilo. Of course, the 26-year-old alleged murderer has become a social media symbol. Over the weekend, the online obsession got the SNL treatment with new cast member and Luigi lookalike Emil Joaquin.
This whole thing's kind of been a roller coaster for me, but on the other hand, I've gotten some of the horniest DMs of my life.
The internet wants to cast stars like Dave Franco and Cooper Koch as possible actors to portray Luigi on screen. Cooper, who is Golden Globe nominated for his portrayal of Eric Menendez, told us it's too soon.
I think I have to take a departure from the crime scenes and do something else. But I did find that hilarious.
The connection between Mangione and Combs raises interesting questions about legal strategy, media attention, and the influence of shared defense resources. Both cases are under intense public scrutiny, and both defendants face serious, life-altering consequences if convicted. The Agnifilos are now tasked with defending two high-profile clients accused of vastly different crimes, but equally vilified in the public eye.
Your Honor, he's not a symbol. He's somebody who is afforded the right to a fair trial. He's innocent until proven guilty.
Luigi Mangione, the man accused of gunning down the United Healthcare CEO in the middle of Manhattan, won't be back in court when we had expected. His federal court date's been pushed back so that his formidable defense team and one of the country's most successful prosecution offices can prepare to do battle. This comes as we are learning new details about Mangione's background and what he allegedly did to prepare for this apparent assassination. Attorneys for Sean Diddy Combs are fighting a lot of battles on a lot of different fronts lately and likely spent their holiday crafting motions to try to curtail the amount of legal action the disgraced music mogul is facing. But one of the strangest cases involves a Michigan prison inmate who claims that Combs raped him in the 90s. A judge had initially granted a massive $100 million judgment in his favor, but after that was overturned, Derek Cardello Smith is now pushing forward with his lawsuit, and he says he plans to call pop icon Jennifer Lopez as a witness.
Luigi Mangione is facing both federal and state charges, including first-degree murder, criminal possession of a weapon, and terrorism-related charges after allegedly gunning down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Prosecutors claim Mangione used a ghost gun, partially made from 3D printed parts, to carry out the assassination. The motive remains murky, though investigators suggest Mangione was driven by deep-seated grievances against the healthcare industry. Reports indicate he was not a United Healthcare client, raising questions about whether his alleged act was meant to send a symbolic message.
And outweighs the best interest of the public and the defendant in a speedy trial. So you see those competing interests here. And by the way, I will talk about that defense in a minute because this may be raised at a preliminary hearing or maybe some pretrial motions. We'll talk about it. But right now, this 26-year-old is charged federally through a criminal complaint. So this is not a formal indictment. A complaint is just a precursor to either an indictment or a preliminary hearing, which again might be scheduled for February. But just days after that, Mangione is scheduled to be in state court for an appearance because that is where he has already been indicted. Mangione is charged in New York State Court with 11 counts, including murder in the first degree, criminal possession of a weapon, and having a forged instrument. And that is in connection with Mangione allegedly using a ghost gun, a weapon made from at least some 3D parts, to shoot Brian Thompson as he walked to the Hilton Hotel in Manhattan. So that's the allegation. And officials say he was lying in wait, ready for Thompson as he walked past, heading for an investors conference for the healthcare giant.
Adding to the complexity of Mangione's case is the public spectacle surrounding his arrest and extradition. His transfer to New York involved a high-security convoy, helicopters, and even a personal appearance by NYC Mayor Eric Adams, who publicly condemned the act as terrorism. Critics argue this treatment unfairly prejudices Mangione's right to a fair trial. His defense claims this media circus, fueled by the mayor's inflammatory comments, has already branded Mangione guilty in the eyes of potential jurors.
But there have been a lot of critiques surrounding how much of a circus this case has already become. Because when Mangione was extradited from Pennsylvania back to New York, he traveled by not only SUV, but also by helicopter, where he was met on a pier by a swarm of heavily armed officers. The mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, was even escorting Mangione at one point. And while it gave the appearance of wanting to make sure Mangione didn't harm anyone, or maybe I should say that no one were to step in and actually help him, because there was this fanfare of after his arrest, people really came to support him, I think it was also to set a stage that this can't be tolerated, that this is an incredibly serious crime, and we have to warn that any other copycats out there, or potential copycats, there will be severe consequences. And just going back to that idea of making sure nobody stepped in, you see, Mangione's name and likeness have soared in popularity over the last few weeks. It's been disturbing to see. Some have been seeing him as a sort of folk hero, a man who may have killed but did it to send a powerful message about the struggles of millions.
Meanwhile, Sean Diddy Combs is embroiled in his own legal nightmare. He faces federal charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and obstruction of justice. Allegations against Combs include running a criminal enterprise that exploited women through coercion, intimidation, and manipulation for sex trafficking purposes. His defense, led by Mark Agnifilo, has pushed for a speedy trial, currently set for May 5th, 2025. The hearing date was set about 3 months ago when Combs appeared in the court.
Developing at 5, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs back inside a federal courtroom here in New York.
All right, a trial date's now been set for May 5th of next year. Lisa Evers live in Lower Manhattan with the very latest today. Lisa.
Well, Stephen, Natasha, this was Sean Diddy Combs' third time in the courthouse you see right behind me, his first time before a new judge. They did handle these calendar matters and also set that May 5th, 2025 date for the trial to begin. But what was most striking was that his mother, Janice Combs, who's been with him his whole life, flew up from Florida to be with him, as did most of his children, in a show of support. Sean Combs' son, Christian, known professionally as King Combs, held his grandmother's hand as they left the courthouse with his other siblings.
We want to hear from you. Anything you want to say at this point.
Judge Arun Subramanian acknowledged that his mother, Janice Combs, came from Florida for her son, and that his kids also traveled to be in the same courtroom with him. Combs' attorney, Anthony Rico, sat by his side throughout the proceeding. He's handling the appeal of his bail denial, which is a separate case in the appeals court.
However, both the prosecution and defense are clashing over pre-trial deadlines. Central to this debate is the Enterprise letter, which details the specific acts supporting the racketeering conspiracy charge against Combs. His defense is demanding earlier disclosure of this evidence to prepare adequately for trial.
Given the May 5th, 2025 trial date in this case, the government respectfully submits that the current pre-trial motion schedule, in which the pre-trial motions would be fully briefed less than 2 months prior to trial, will not permit the parties to raise and the court to resolve pretrial issues sufficiently in advance of the May 5th, 2025 trial. While the defendant is fully entitled to request a speedy trial, that does not mean that he's entitled to demand disclosure deadlines appropriate in cases with significantly longer timelines. Accordingly, the government objects to any schedule, including that proposed by the defendant, requiring the government to make trial disclosures before the filing and/or resolution of pretrial motions which may shape or affect those disclosures, including by affecting the scope of the charges or the evidence the government is permitted to rely upon in its case in chief. Okay, so a lot of legalese. What does all that mean? Well, basically the prosecution is saying, look, there are a lot of filings and issues that need to be resolved before trial, which, by the way, I will get into. But essentially, the government is saying on the current schedule, there's not enough time to sort all this out.
While Combs battles legal challenges on multiple fronts, Mangione's case has taken on a bizarre life of its own in the public eye. Disturbingly, a new poll indicates that 41% of voters under 30 believe the assassination of Brian Thompson was acceptable. On social media, Mangione has gained a disturbing following, even inspiring an SNL skit that poked fun at his rising internet fame.
Oh, Luigi, Luigi, Luigi. I must say that the internet is all over this guy for the unaliving of the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Now, just coming off of TikTok, people are saying how good looking he is to others and trying to uncover as much about him as possible, especially people who hate health insurance companies. Now, they are probably his biggest supporters, but it doesn't justify what he did. And it seems people understand him in a sense because they've been messed about by insurance providers before. So, it kind of makes sense. However, the story gets a little bit wild because you can see his outbursts that he's having when it comes to the media while he's being taken into jail, okay? But also, because of the way he looks and the fact that people have found out that he's educated, he now has a group of fans and they've decided to start GoFundMes for his legal fees.
Adding to the growing tension, both Mangione and Combs are enduring the brutal conditions of MDC Brooklyn, a facility notorious for violence and inhumane living conditions. Inmates are subjected to poor sanitation, limited medical care, and, in some cases, life-threatening violence.
The Russian novelist Dostoevsky once wrote, "The degree of civilization in a society can be judged by entering its prisons. That judgment would be harsh for anyone setting foot in any of our nation's 123 federal prisons." A series of new reports by the Justice Department's Inspector General found unsafe conditions in chronically understaffed facilities that are falling apart and have failing security systems that allow prisoners to smuggle in cell phones, drugs, and weapons.
The music mogul now finds himself in a jail notorious for its appalling living conditions. Combs spent his first night behind bars at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn, a facility described as hell on earth.
You have your bed with a 1.5-inch mattress, no pillow.
Before him, notable figures such as R. Kelly, Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and crypto scammer Sam Bankman-Fried were also held there. For someone like Diddy, accustomed to a life of extreme luxury.
Mangione's legal team has already voiced concerns about how media attention and political involvement have compromised his right to a fair trial. They argue that Mayor Adams' presence during Mangione's extradition and the excessive show of force were more about public relations than public safety. Similarly, Combs' defense claims that media portrayals and witness tampering allegations have unfairly painted him as guilty before trial.
And the media, as it always does, is playing a huge role in shaping the narrative, with every new development drawing even more eyes. But what happens next could change everything. Will Diddy's legal team succeed in their fight to limit public commentary and ensure a fair trial? Or will the flood of media attention continue to create an atmosphere of chaos, potentially affecting the course of justice? The courtroom could very well be the setting for a landmark moment, not just for the celebrity world, but for the future of how high-profile cases are handled in the public eye. One thing is certain, as this case progresses, it will only grow more complex, more controversial, and more captivating. With every new revelation, it seems like a new twist is waiting just around the corner. Could there be even more shocking accusations? Will new evidence be uncovered that could shift the course of the trial? The questions continue to mount, and the public is watching every step of the way. But beyond the drama, the most important question remains: will justice truly be served?
This unique connection between Mangione and Combs' cases highlights how intertwined legal battles can become, especially when high-profile defense attorneys are involved. With both men sharing not only a detention center, but also legal representation from the Agnifilo family, their paths are more connected than anyone could have anticipated.
Maybe Diddy was jealous of the attention that Mangione was getting, so what did we do? Law and Crime. We reached out to Combs' team, and they say that is completely made up. It was, again, kind of an outrageous thing, a little bit of crazy stuff. We'll continue to monitor if anything changes there. I mean, it is something that two of the biggest cases that we've been covering and two of the most high-profile defendants we've been covering are now both in the same detention facility, but we'll see where this goes. But anyway, as Mangione remains locked up on both federal and state charges for allegedly targeting and shooting to death United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson on the streets of Midtown Manhattan, New York last month, his high-powered legal team is working to build a defense. And by the way, that is another connection to Sean Diddy Combs, because Mark Agnifilo, who's Diddy's attorney, is married to Karen Friedman Agnifilo. This is Mangione's attorney. And Mark actually is going to be helping out with this case too. So he has a lot going on now in 2025.
The Agnifilos now face the monumental task of defending two clients who have become lightning rods for public outrage. Whether they can successfully navigate these high-stakes cases remains to be seen, but their strategies will likely set legal precedents and dominate media coverage throughout 2025.
Has this been surprising to you that across both political perspectives, a new poll came out that 50% of college students favor Luigi Mangione?
Well, I think the killing of that executive, Brian Thompson, and the rage of people in this country who've seen their families, who themselves have been subjected to privatized healthcare denials, that blew up. And the entire majority of people, even people on TV, commentators on CNN were complaining that they couldn't get, they were being denied. And these are not poor people. They make hundreds of thousands of dollars. But we're talking about a system. That's what we're talking about. It's not one person. It's not Luigi, it's not Brian Thompson. It's a system of how our society is organized. And that's why the solution is not individual. I don't believe in individual action. That's not going to change a system. But what that murder did show is that millions and millions of people in the United States, the vast majority of people in the United States, are fed up with this capitalist control of healthcare.
As both cases unfold, public interest will undoubtedly intensify. Mangione's terrorism charges and Combs' racketeering and trafficking allegations touch on sensitive societal issues: corporate greed, systemic abuse, and the failures of the justice system. These cases force the public to grapple with difficult questions about power, accountability, and the legal system's ability to deliver justice. So, what do you think? Are these just wild conspiracy theories, or is there a darker reality lurking behind the glitz and glamour of fame? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more updates, and hit that bell so you never miss a thing.